Right, so I made the structure, the gusseted structure that held the farmer's gin bottle. So from the 3D tutorial that I had done, I printed out the die line, just how we did that, and I had the added curve in here that held that together. So just as a reminder, I'm talking about modifying a gusseted corner. This is just a little sample of how the gusseted corner works. So we have our blank, we have our floor, and then our two upright panels, and we're taking this material in the corner. That's what they call the gusset. So by folding on the 45, we can bring that material up like this, and we create a very strong corner. Both edges are rolled in, so if there's any printing or color, we don't see any raw cut fluted material on the end. So it's a really nice intersection here to do that. And of course, this is just one corner. If you do that 4 times, it's a very, very strong box, which can be put on with a cover, sealed with a cover, or a flap can be integrated into the same die line to keep that closed. But again, like I had mentioned, this gusset is coming into the material, into the void here where the product will be standing. In this case, it'll be a bottle. So it's not really doing any work except for making a nice corner. So quite often what we do is we kind of push that out of the way, and then we bring in other pieces of material to hold that. So we might have a double gusset on each side and bring in a double wall flap to hold that. So that works pretty well, but the goal, like I had mentioned, for this was to do more with this material. I don't want to just fold it out of the way. I want to kind of turn this into a structural component. And then also when it opens, I want it to look attractive for the unboxing experience. So here's the die line that I had printed out. I partially had it cut out, so I'm just going to finish cutting this and scoring this. There's some interesting, unique features about how this die line relates to the fluted material. Because like I had mentioned several times before, with corrugated material, one of the key characteristics is folding with or against the flute. And that can make or break a structure. Literally break it. If it's not in the right direction, it could get squished under a certain amount of weight. Again, here's this little negative curve that I did on the end. I did a little test to see how that was going to relate to the bottle, and it got a little tight. So just by adding this used to be a straight edge, I thought maybe that would work well. But actually it looks a lot nicer with the negative curve, and it combines with all these other curves on there, so it looks quite nice. I also like this pack a lot because the die, this simple die, looks very nice. It's almost like, well, what does that do? How does that work? How does it function? And then on top of it, once you discover how it does work, it works pretty well. So as you can see, I had rotated the die line on a 45-degree angle and then mounted that onto the fluting. Okay, just about there. Okay. There we go. Okay, so there's the die. It's very interesting. So the fluting is running in this direction. But as it relates to all my folds, the folds are on a 45. The main folds are on a 45 to the fluting, and then these secondary ones are still not lining up with the fluting, which in this case is a good thing. So, I can make these folds and I can press pretty hard because I'm not working with the fluted material. So again, I'm using the wooden stick from the scoreboard that I had created. So it's a nice blunt end. It's actually getting a little too blunt. It's been around a little while, so that gets rounded down. But I'm pushing pretty hard to make that nice fold in there. So this is going to be very strong. This part doesn't function by itself. It does rely on the cover, the lid, the closure. So it is a 2-part system. So I'm pressing pretty hard. It's great to have those folds going against the fluting. I always get nervous when it's with the flute because I tend to make them tear. So this is a lot of internal folding, and I'm coming to a point that can be quite challenging because the material is getting squished. We got all these panels. If you think about it, all 3 of these and these, like 5 panels are coming together all at that one little point. So I'm going to demonstrate maybe doing a slit score where we have a fold and cuts to make that go in. I know I keep talking about trying not to damage the folds. This is not going to show up on the back, so I'm just going to make sure I got everybody. I think I do. I'm just going to start to fold these in before I remove the die line, just to make sure I have everything set up. And we can start to see how the fluting, it might be hard to see on the camera, is going on this diagonal. So it's kind of an interesting fold. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm just gonna ease these into position. Make sure I have all those marked. Oh, here, I missed one. That's cool. Well, I wanted to check it before I moved the die line. I've done that before. I skip some of these. Okay, runaway pen. Okay, again, I put the die line on here with the repositionable spray mount so I can peel this off and end up with a very nice clean part without any lines, hopefully. Okay, there's the part. So now I'm going to go a little bit further with these folds. I'm going to hyperextend that over, get that to crush very nicely. There we go. So now I'm just going to, see I tore a little. I went a little bit too far crushing that. So I don't like seeing those torn edges, but that would end up being a slit score anyhow, so maybe I can get away with that. When you work with the double face white like this, every little cut and nick shows up because it's still white material. So if you do a really nice job, it looks great. But if you tear the material a little bit, it's extremely apparent. I have another one here that really tore. Yeah, so this is a little challenging in this corner because this material. So here's the action that we're looking for. We're bringing those 2 pieces in, and then we have that center triangle, which is going to press up against the bottle. So that's great, and it's really nice how that works. I still have a really excellent corner. It's very, very strong. And then I have that triangulation in there, which holds the bottle into place. Yeah, so that's nice, all 4 corners. So this particular one, it's got a lot of folding going on. Like I said, down in this corner, there's a lot of activity. Like sometimes they might even cut out a little bit of that corner just to take away all that stress. Because it wants to open. It's really, and since I made this by hand, do this one. Since I made this by hand, it really wants to expand and push out like that. So one thing we can do, like I had mentioned, is do a slit score. So now I have a nice fold here, and there's a lot of pressure on this little fold. So what we can do is, and I just do this by hand, is I make little cuts, maybe 3/16 and space them out. So I'm actually going right through the material. So I'm pressing pretty hard and leaving some of the material connected. So they refer to that as a slit score. So it's cutting little parts in there, and it makes the stress on that joint a little bit less, so it wants to close. But still, this needs to be hyper folded quite a bit. So you can see that slit score. It makes those little dark areas. So these ones that are ripped, if I put a slit score in there, it probably will look fine. It's going to look a lot like this. But that is a little more under control. Looks like a nice clean cut there. So that is this bottom part. Let's try to set this up. I have one that has been in its folded orientation, so it's a bit easier to hold together. But the interesting part is that geometry right now. So when I hold this together with the cover, I have that nice triangulation in every corner. So this is very, very strong, and it'll support a relatively heavy glass bottle in the center. So that's our structural part of this package. So I have one here assembled. I'm just putting the shipping label on it, just to see that it fits and show just for demonstration purposes. I know I have this tuck flap in here. We're going to talk about that. This will probably be glued because we don't want the consumer to open this part to access the bottle. We do want the consumer to lift the top and then have this pop open. So here's this presentation. I should have the label facing towards the front. So you can see how these are holding in this neutral area. It's very similar to the 3D data file that I pushed because I've had it in this folded. I have slit scores all around those triangles, and I've had it in the closed orientation for quite a while. You can see, like if the bottle is slightly off center, it centers itself. It's not like this bottle has to be positioned, which I think is quite nice. So the structure is very forgiving, and it would be very easy for fulfillment. So when they open these up, you can sort of place the bottle in there. It doesn't have to be perfectly oriented. And just by bringing it together, you can put the lid on. So this box is designed to be open. So we have the nice, beautiful presentation. So it's not really that easy to put the cover back on. As you can see, it's a bit challenging. You got to bring all these parts together. So fulfillment, so they don't have that problem. What would happen in fulfillment is they would bring this together and we'd have a jig, like a little box that you would put this in and would hold it together. And all they have to do is put the lid on and then they tape it and that's it. And so fulfillment, it works really well. It's structurally strong. It will support the bottle. And I think it has this very nice kind of unboxing. This is for this brand, Farmer's Gin. It's very organic. It's grown in the fields of Kentucky and it's very pure. So I think this kind of sort of flowering, blooming structure is quite nice. And again, just to re-emphasize, we have this diagonal. It's getting a little dirty, but we have our flutes are all on a diagonal in every direction. So it's pretty strong. So the top structure is pretty simple. This is just a rolled tube. We all know that expression now. So it folds flat. So it's just the 4 panels. We have the one manufacturer's glue flap. So this would get set up flat and it would get shipped with these and they'd all be flat. And then for fulfillment, it would just be a matter of setting this up. I've integrated this insert. So I have created a step which pushes this part down into the tube. So it sets in and it will sit around the neck of this bottle, the finish area. I noticed when I did that, since I have a cut hole, when I take this off, it sometimes grabs a little bit of this neck, this little indent. So what I could have and should have done is done more of a starburst, which we've all seen, where you take that material and you cut it on an angle and it looks like a kind of a starburst sun and you fold those out. That probably would have worked a little bit better, made it a little easier to slip over the top of this neck. But that's a refinement that can be worked out. So these are smaller dust flaps because I was trying to get it out of this material, but I have the 2 dust flaps, which keeps that insert in position, and then this locks closed. And like I mentioned, this is probably going to be a glue closure so that the consumer doesn't open this up instead of pulling off the top, which we want them to do. So that's just the prototype of that, and I have another tutorial after this. So this is sort of proving out the die line. So it works. So the tutorial after this is dimensioning that die line, and I have that in a separate video.